Hello and welcome to Heroes of Hampton Roads, an audio and video podcast to introduce you to some of God's choicest servants here in the Hampton Roads region of Virginia. I'll be your host, and my name is Pastor Bob Fox. For the past 30 years, I've been trying to build relationships of trust and affection among Christian leaders so that we can work together and pray together and build the kingdom of God together here in our region. And then hopefully go to the nations together and tell people all over the world about the wonderful news of Jesus Christ. So in the past 30 years, I've met many men and women whose lives and ministries are so outstanding that I think you should meet them also. So I hope you will listen to the series, be inspired, encouraged, and challenged, and pray for them so that they can continue to serve the Lord and serve us in such remarkable ways. God bless you, and thanks for listening. Well, hello everybody. This is Bob Fox, your host, and this is episode, probably it's going to be episode 13 of Heroes of Hampton Roads. And my guest today is my good friend and fellow partner in ministry, Ron Atkinson. Ron is doing actually a ministry that I've never even thought of doing, or most people haven't thought of doing. And it has to do with a problem that is countrywide, across the nation, where children in schools, in particular high schools, are not doing well. There's a lot of things going on in their family or lack thereof. So Norfolk in particular, where Ron started off working, has the highest rate of school suspensions in the state. That means that kids are being suspended out of the classroom for a day or more at a time at the highest rate in the whole state of Virginia. In addition, the zip code in Norfolk, 23504, has the highest rate of incarceration of any school system in the nation. So it's really one of the toughest situations for a young boy or a young girl to get an education and come out and have a decent chance to have a good life, to get a job and have a family and stuff. Very tough. Fortunately, the Norfolk school system has been wise enough to officially invite volunteers from their community, even from the faith-based community, to come into the schools and talk to the kids and help them gain a better perspective on life, a better worldview, so that they can succeed in school and stay out of that prison pipeline that we talked about, the incarceration rate. And Ron and his team have, over the past few years, developed what I would call a prototype ministry that is revolutionary. They've got volunteers going into the schools every week and sitting down with the kids, and they are making discernible, factually based results for the better by having the volunteers from the community go into the schools. And the schools love it, and the students love it, and they're even interacting with the parents on a one-to-one basis. It's a win-win for everybody. So without any further ado, I just want to introduce my good friend, Ron Atkinson. Welcome, Ron. It's glad to have you.
Bob, I want to thank you for inviting me to be a part of Heroes of Hampton Roads and episode number 13. I'm glad to be here, my friend.
I got to put my glasses on to read now. So what's the name of your ministry?
Well, Community Classroom is kind of what we put out there for everyone to grab hold of. And we put it like this. Community Classroom is YesUSA's collaborative ecosystem to develop values-based leaders through character development in college and career readiness, empowering youth and communities for citywide transformation. And this community classroom concept allows us to be able to have an umbrella of for-profits, nonprofits, churches, and other faith-based groups to strategically work together in one area with an outcome that is measurable and repeatable. Right.
So before we get into the sort of the weeds of all of that, why don't you give us some testimonies, Ron, maybe from a parent or a student or a volunteer?
Sure. Let me start with, we have what we call a macro tunnel approach. So what does that mean? Well, we start out with a lot, and we narrow it all the way down to many, and a mini to a micro, and then a micro to a nano. So in our big project that we do in gymnasiums and in stadiums, which is to take values-based principles that we do with students on campus, in locker rooms, in classrooms, and we take those values and we put them out into a wider scope. And this is one of the testimonies that comes from that. Parents and adults and youth are saying that values are important to them, and that they would like to see values in a sports arena more readily available. And 80 to 85% of those participating said they want to be involved with that. On a smaller level, which would be like in our 40 to 50 group, we call that those sessions, we're seeing where students are having an impact of something like 65% of those students are seeing a change. In fact, I was just reading one of the surveys from a student the other day, day before yesterday actually, and they said that what they were experiencing in the values-based sessions, which are like 1 to 4, that it has huge impact on their lives. I have a parent do what we call, in the summer times, we have a sports component called All In, and we have it designed so that we do camps on campus, and we do those camps in the community. And our leadership camp we do in Ahoskie, North Carolina, overnight camps, and we have more time with the students. And a parent said that this summer that they were so glad that someone took time to give inner city students exposure to opportunities that they never had in the past. And this particular parent said, I want to volunteer, I want to be a part of it. So this summer, in that context, Bob, we had something that's very unique that occurred. We had 3 different camps. One was a wrestling camp. Another one was what we call a sports training camp. And that camp for the football, that camp focused on entrepreneurship, skill development, academic readiness, and values-based learning, all right? And in addition to that, we had a tennis camp. And our tennis instructor was Nat Warren. And Nat Warren was the founder of the tennis program at Norfolk State University, and has recently been honored to be in their Hall of Fame. And they just named their tennis court complex after that. And he came down there, and he was just mesmerized by working with, I think they had about maybe 15 to 20 students teaching tennis, many of which had never held a tennis racket, okay? So, you're taking students out of a asphalt environment into, in a really a rural environment, into a overnight situation it's just transformation all around. And of course the coaches enjoy it because it gives them opportunity to allow their scholars to bond together individually, relationally, as well as a team. So we've seen it. In fact, one coach, high school coach, said that typically he may have 2 to 3 scholars per quarter that make honor roll. And since they've been doing the meal and the message, which is our 1 to 40 ratio of a message to students, they've had like 12 to 14 per quarter making honor roll. So I think we can see in that instance, when you begin serving a child or any person from the inside out, everything around them begins to make a shift, right? And we just have to have the time to be able to do that. And the thing about Norfolk is that they're giving us that time to do it with the students during school time. Not just after school, but actually during school. So it's exciting to see what's happening.
Yeah, that's amazing. That they're asking you to come in and then giving you school time to do this. And you especially are inviting men to be involved with this. Now, usually when students go to school, they see mainly women, don't they?
Yes.
Teachers, there are female. Now, the volunteers are mainly men, and you're giving them, especially for kids who come from a family without a father at home, you're giving them experience, a positive and often faith-based experience with a man, and that's really changing their lives. It reminds me of that movie called The Forge that came out in the last year, where there was a young black man whose life wasn't going too well, and some other men took an interest in him, and slowly he became this amazing guy. Is that kind of your vision?
It's absolutely. In fact, it was about 6.5 years ago when one of our donors said to me, and it was after Gilda, my wife, going to be with the Lord, he said, well, Ron, what are you going to do now? I said, well, I'm going to keep working with youth. And he said, yeah, you need to do that. But what about their dads? Bob, I just looked at them, their dads. Now, I had been doing inner city ministry for about 25 years, and 6 of those years I was doing it in New Orleans, and I could count on one hand how many times I really interfaced with the dad. And so right there on the spot, I repented. I said, I've been doing youth ministry wrong for 36 years, because the scripture says, turn the heart of the fathers to the children and the children to the fathers. They weren't even, I wasn't intentional. So I said, enter that. And after that, that's when the Lord said, this is what I want you to do. He said, give the church the vision to go to the campuses, to serve the campuses. And the church he was talking about were the men. And then the second he said, this is the strategy. This is what I want you to do. If you can win a campus, you can win a community. If you can win a community, you can win a city. Well, if you can win a city, then you can win a country. Well, if you can do that with one country, you can do that with 195 plus nations. And that's been the thing about it was about a year ago, the Lord paralleled this to Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and uttermost parts of the earth. So hey, it's just locked in.
So, Ron, what you're doing reminds me of the movie called The Forge, which came out this last year. And it was a beautiful movie about a young African American man whose life was not going well. And he was taken under the wing of some other men, and they loved him. And they just taught him what it was like to be a man. They gave him healthy male values, Christian values, character values. And that guy really flourished, and as the movie showed. And that's pretty much what you're doing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So you've started this in Norfolk, Ron, where the needs are so obvious, as we mentioned with the statistics. But I understand there's another city that's invited you to come out and help them with their schools too, right?
Yes, which again has been just God purposed. Our team is just so varied. I mean, we have local churches that are part of the team. You have for-profit and non-profit entities, as well as parachurches, kind of like ourselves, And so with that, you have the whole village kind of, just coming in to serve one area strategically. Well, we had one teacher that relocated to another campus. And that campus had some needs, and they remembered the kind of impact we had at the campus we had over in Norfolk, and recommended that we come in. And so we met with them, and that was then birthed. We like to call it Community Classroom Virginia Beach, And so it's the Lord is expanding it as He said He would. If you can do a campus, you can do a community, do a city. And so now we're at that city level. Interesting enough, and this is why it's so collaborative, oriented. There's another campus in Norfolk that has, special children with special needs, and because our capacity is still growing. And so we've had favor to be able to leverage kind of relational capital that we have. So with this particular campus, they only like about 130 some odd students, about 50 something teachers and staff. But 45 of those children are live in Portsmouth. Now the campus is in Norfolk. So now you've got children in Portsmouth and Norfolk on the same campus. So we have been able to partner with a group, a newly formed group that is flourishing, Safe and Sound, that is in Portsmouth. And so they are working to be able to take another group, Let's Make a Difference, who focuses on working with teacher appreciation. Because when you take care of those teachers, then they can take care of the students. Let's Make a Difference has been a pillar. They are the impetus behind this school to prison pipeline dissolving for over 15 years now. And so they are leaders right there in the school district, in the city. And so they're going to be able to partner with Safe and Sound to be able to have an impact on those teachers. I mean, it's just phenomenal, the way that all this is working together collectively.
So you've got the structure, and it's really working well, and the school system loves it, parents love it. But if I were a volunteer and I wanted to work with you, and I understand you want to have about 30 volunteers a week to go into the schools. I'm not a trained teacher. I don't even like to speak in public, let's say. So what am I going to actually be talking to these kids about when I go into the schools?
Excellent question. Bob, as you know, we are values-based in terms of our focus. So much of what we do is centered around values. And so we share those values in a strategic way, and we call it our roundtable system, where it's like a 1-4 or 1-5 max kind of ratio, a facilitator to a student. And we do that over the course of 7 weeks. So it's 6 weeks of an hour with a student, the same students over the course of that time period, where they have a curriculum that they go through, and they self-evaluate themselves. In other words, after they go through the material, they might say, well, on integrity, man, I feel like I'm on a 1 to 10, I'm about an 8. But by the time they go through and read what that entails, they come and say, well, maybe I'm not quite an 8. I might be more like a 5, And say, okay, all right. So then the next week, what are you going to do now to improve? So they have to identify specific steps that they're going to take for that coming week. And then they come back and they're held accountable for, did you do what you said?
So name some, you mentioned integrity. That's one of the topics you address. What are some other topics that a volunteer would address with and they've got this all written out, so they don't have to invent it, right?
We come in, we do a training with them for about an hour and a half. Our trainer trains them, and after that training, they're ready to go. It doesn't take a lot.
What kind of topics so integrity is one.
Integrity, honesty, resilience. Another one is citizenship. and here's one that is really, really powerful, and we all know it: love. We have that plastered all over the stadiums and in the gym. You know what I mean?
Wow, you talk about love.
Yeah. Love, hope. These are values. And what happens when you talk about a value? In other words, a value is something outside of yourself that you esteem as being very important. So once you have that before you, you can start moving towards that. And I like to say this: convergence is when a value becomes a virtue. Okay, so you have to see a value before you can have a virtue, right? So that's what makes it so powerful. And the students, when that comes, when they have that experience, that reality check, so, well, wait a minute, I need some improvement in this area. And also we're finding we're having coaches, they come in and they're facilitators. We have teachers that are facilitators, okay? So and if you start with the top, so if you can start with the top in any system, whether it be a parent or if it's a teacher or if it's a principal, the higher up you start with this, everything underneath aligns to it. Okay, and that's been proven with this particular system. It's been proven at an international level, where you've got whether the president of a country aligning his cabinet to come into that system, and within a short amount of time, that whole nation is realigned. So we've seen that as well.
So I think one of the things that makes your program so unique and wonderful is that you're mobilizing men to go into the schools and be like a substitute dad, really, to these young boys and girls, and to kind of tell them the things that their own dad could have told them at home if they had a dad at home. Or maybe their dad is in the military a lot or is just not available. And you're telling them about basic character values that can help shape their worldview and hopefully keep them out of this incarceration pipeline and give them the hope and the sense of dignity to be able to finish their school, right? Something like that. But can women also be volunteers, by the way?
Absolutely. In fact, we're coming up now where our camp manager said, Ron, we need about 15 facilitators for females, because we're working with cheerleaders, so we're working with girls basketball teams. So we definitely need females as well as males. Yes, absolutely.
And if they're former athletes from high school, all the better, right?
All the better.
Because you're working with a lot of athletic teams.
I work with a lot of athletic teams, and sometimes, and it's easy to happen, right? People would say, oh, you're an athletic group. Well, no, we're not athletic. We are fully campus. Right. And so what happens is, because of the nature of what we do, we get invited in by a lot of sports. In fact, I got an invitation tonight to go over to speak at a basketball team. And so they said, the coach said, I'll provide the pizza. Can you come? So I said, well, I don't know. We don't have enough capacity to maintain if I come, you see. So that's part of the challenge. We don't want to be able to start something that we can't finish strongly on, right? And the other part too, Bob, is about the fathers is so important. When we first started Lake Taylor, and Coach Sawyer he's just instrumental in this whole thing working. He is a man of peace, just a godly man. He and his wife, Sandra, they just have done exceedingly in Norfolk Public Schools, and particularly at Lake Taylor. And they came in and they said, well, we want to do a camp. And the camp impetus came behind some fathers who said that they wanted their children to gain some more skills, but more than skills, they wanted them to develop values. And that's when they asked us to come in. So that's how All In was formed. So we did the camp, and the high schoolers, they did a camp for them at Lake Taylor. Then those students went out to the community to serve younger children who were elementary, middle school. They took what we taught them and they did it with them. Then we came back together for a celebration. And we had the celebration. Coach Sawyer said, look, I want our football team to come, but not just the football players. So he extended an invitation to all of the counselors they had on staff, which is about 5. So that's like another 35 students along with his scholars. And then we invited the biological fathers and the surrogate fathers to come to that breakfast. And the only female in that room was Dr. Wade, who was the principal. And I'll tell you what, it was phenomenal. And as a result of that time, that's when Steve Sudmiller, who was over all the sports athletics in Norfolk, he said to me, he said, Ron, can you do this on all of our campuses? And I said, yeah, we could do this. And Faith, I said, yeah, we can do this. And then he said, could you start by doing a pilot at Booker T? And that's how we got to where we are now, because of what they saw, the father's response. Because they had dads come in there. They were not only just the biological dads, but surrogate dads. In fact, one of the dads who was there, I don't know if you remember the journalist, female journalist, who was, unfortunately, she was shot fatally by the MacArthur Mall. She had a brother who attended Lake Taylor. And the father, he was there that morning. and I got a chance to speak with him. And so this is the real life that's out there, And the thing that's so exciting about it, Bob, is that the church has the answer. I was in a middle school cafeteria talking to the staff. Young man came and just sat down by me, on the stool, and just leaned against me. While I was talking, I said, this is interesting. Then he went and got his lunch, came back, had a pizza, ate his pizza, kept leaning. I said, man, what's going on? And what happened was I realized, the Lord showed me, he was bonding with me. And then after his tummy filled with the pizza and his emotions were filled, he went and sat across on the other seat, just sitting there, looking at me. And I said, that's why I tell the dads, just your presence. A lot of times guys say, well, I don't know this and I can't do that and I've done this. No. God made you to be the leader. When you are there, all the other craziness goes away. So just be present, right? And so if someone would go to our website, our All-In website, it's called www.allin.net, www.allin.net. Go there and there's a video there that says, Dad's on Duty. Dad's on Duty. Watch that video. And that video is in Shreveport. There's these children, they were having fisticuffs. I mean, they were just beating each other down. Boom, 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 boom. For a few days, this was going on. And these dads got together on a Sunday night, Bob. Sunday night said, no, we can't have that. It's over. That was a Sunday night. Monday morning, they were up on that campus. After that, no more problems. It was all over. Tony Evans, same situation. He was across the street from a school in Dallas. And the principal came over to him and said, look, okay, you guys got a big church and all of that. We got some problems. Can you come help? No problem. He sent over about a dozen guys. All the problems, boom, went away. Then the principal became the superintendent. He said, look, I got 18 more schools. What can you do now? Boom, he came in. Then after that, all these other districts heard about what's going on. So now they're in over 50 campuses in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, okay? So when men show up, craziness goes away. We just got to show up. And the enemy keeps saying, why you can't show up? And I said, look, if you can walk, you can show up.
Well, that is really heartwarming to hear that it was the dads of some of those students, along with the coaches, who really convinced you that this could be done and needed to be done, of course. But praise the Lord. Well, I'm really happy for all those students, and I'm really happy for you that you've taken that. I know you've sacrificed a lot to make this happen. You've spent years and years kind of laying the groundwork, and now it's coming to fruition. I'm really happy for you, and I hope it expands into all the cities of Hampton Roads and beyond. We want to make sure that we tell people how they can get involved. So tell us about your website.
Absolutely. If you would go to www.communityclassroom57.com, you go there and you can register for a training or orientation. And we do it every first Tuesday of the month from 7 to 8 o'clock. You do that training and boom, then you're on the way to making a difference. That's it.
So the training is online. They won't even have to leave the comfort of their living room to get the training. And then they have to commit to 1 hour a week for 7 weeks to go into one of the schools. And the people that are doing it already are enjoying. Is that right, the volunteers?
Hey, look, you got to hear Monica's story. And this is so powerful about Monica. She had a son that goes to Bayside, right? So she's in Virginia Beach. But she went to our camp, and she volunteered at our camp that was in Norfolk. And her son's team was participating in that camp. It was 7-on-7 at about 5 or 6 schools. But because he was a senior, he couldn't participate because he was graduating. And she was so impacted by what she experienced. Then she came and she volunteered for our training camp in Ahoskie. And she said, look, Ron, the impact that's had on my life personally, number one, I'm already involved with our fellowship, with our youth ministry, and with our outreach. But what it's done, when I joined with All In and what you was doing in the community classroom, the opportunities for me at my church increased. It's like I wasn't having as many challenges I was having before. And it's like contagious what I'm experiencing here. It's just so much bigger than what my church can do. And so that to me is the typical response, And what she did, she was calling all of the parents that went to our 3 camps this summer. So she was getting the testimonies from the parents about how impact on their children. I need to show you that video so you can see that. I mean, to me, that says it all right there.
So you're actually creating youth ministries for the churches that get involved. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Look, I got one pastor right now that said, one coach said, Ron, I want to take my children before Christmas to your church. I said, well, you know what? My church is not working in Norfolk. We want to do this. We got 6 pastors that live in Norfolk, right? I said, we're going to take your children to one of those pastors, okay? So you can do the follow-up and do the nurturing. Absolutely. Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Well, Ron, I'm going to put some pictures in at the end of this video you've sent me of some of those dads that have showed up at the meetings that have really encouraged you to do what you're doing. And I'll also put all the links that you've talked about here. and also going to put a QR code to that movie, The Forge, maybe at least to the trailer so people can see it, because what you're doing is something a lot like that at a ground level, at a community level that really needs to be done. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
God bless you. And I hope that we can do a follow-up video maybe later on when you have some more information for us. But thank you, Ron. And for community classrooms, you guys are real heroes of Hampton Roads. God bless.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
If I asked you, what is the state of our community? Or what do you think about our schools? What would your answer be? And if I were to say there is a need for community involvement, that our churches and faith-based organizations need to be more present and active in our schools, and that our children need character and spiritual development, would you agree? But here's a more personal question. Would you actually do anything to make a difference? Because there are community and school partnerships. There is character and spiritual development happening on campus right now. Norfolk Public Schools has invited Community Classroom to work with scholar athletes at our high schools and middle schools to help dismantle the school-to-prison pipeline. And through all-in football camps, weekly meal and messages, we are already seeing the benefits.
We are focused on values and helping young people to think on their values is such a good thing. That's what drew me to participation.
It just helped my attitude overall. Like, I feel like I'm gonna do better in the future because they've taught me so much stuff.
I went from 2-3 kids that may get on the honor roll per quarter to 14, 15 kids getting the honor roll per quarter.
So my last question is this: will you join in the movement?
Your grandfather drove this?
My dad told me he was gonna fix it over me.
This is the way he left it. Like everything else.
You are my son, but I'm giving you 1 month to find a job, or you can find one of your little friends that's gonna let you sleep on their couch for free.
I want to introduce you to a small group of men that mean the world to me.
We grow together, we eat together. It's one of the most important things I've ever done in my life.
What kind of man do you want to be? And what do you want people to think when they see you coming? If I may be blunt, a man stands in front of me. Isaiah, welcome to the Forge.